Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. My name is Barbara Higgins, and I'm the Director of Safety and Student Engagement at the San Diego County Office of Education. I am thrilled today to be able to share with you Kristi Jackson, who is the attendance coordinator at Fresno Unified School District. And I had the opportunity to hear her speak and share some strategies at a state SARB meeting a few months back. And when I heard what she had to share, her no nonsense approach, I reached out to see if she'd be able and willing to share with us today. So thank you so very much. If you're needing materials, you can find those. I put something in the chat, but you can find those in the communication hub part of the conference. That's in that left-hand column, gives you all the speakers and sessions, and you would want to go to the school summit section. So with that, I'll give you Kristi. Thank you, Kristi.
Sure. Hello, everyone, and thank you for being here. As she mentioned, I work for Fresno Unified School District. We are currently the third largest district in the state of California, with a little less than 75,000 students. Just to give you an idea, we have over 66 elementary schools, 13 comprehensive middle schools, and 7 comprehensive high schools. So we're a very large districts, just to give you a perspective of that, where I work. So we're going to start here and talking about the importance of attendance, which most of you may already know that. But our goal in our district is to ensure that every student attends school regularly and on time. And that is, a service that we provide to the public to be able to have access for students to education. And also it's, a safety thing, is we want kids to be in school every day, because then they can't be out doing things they shouldn't be doing, and that they're in our care in a safe place. Attendance has a huge impact on students' academic success, starting in kindergarten and then continuing through high school. And we often explain to parents that, high school graduation starts in kindergarten. And because we know that most parents always want high school graduation for their students. So we want them to think about that starting when they're 5. We do the SARB process in our district, and that begins with prevention. It's not just the end game, right? We want to make sure that we're using the most cost-effective way to increase school attendance, and we'll talk about that in our Tier 1 strategy. Knowing that early intervention is the best way to connect students and families back to the school. And since this pandemic, we all know that that's been a struggle for a lot of us. So we are definitely reaching out and trying as many early interventions as possible. And we'll be talking about that again in Tier 1. Relationships build trust, and we can only move at the speed of trust. So I want you to think about that as we move through this. Anytime that we ever do anything for someone, it's usually because we have a relationship with them, or there's something we're trying to get back out of it, right? And so we found that it's very important to have those relationships with our families, because that's where the work's going to happen. And if they don't trust us, then it's very hard for us to get anything to any work done. So I put this slide up, truancy versus chronic absence, just to do a little quick overview, because I will talk about both. In our current system with Ed Code, truancy, it's very truancy based. So that's talking about unexcused absences, emphasizing on compliance with school rules, where we have jurisdiction over the student's attendance, relying on the legal and administrative solutions. Now, we talk about chronic absence, that is all absences, excused, unexcused, and also including suspensions. And this is emphasized on the academic impact of missed days. If kids aren't in school, they can't learn. So we're looking at all days or any time that a student is missing when we're looking at chronic absence. And with chronic absence, we're using more community-based positive strategies, because there isn't that legal jurisdiction over the excused absences. So we want to, in this case, that we're serving the student in the best way possible in regard to their excused absence. So chronic absenteeism is not just a Fresno problem, and it's a national issue. And when ESSA passed in 2015, we all had to start reporting our chronic absence data. Prior to that, we only looked at truancy, which is just the unexcused absences. But now we're looking at all absences, like we talked about, excused and unexcused. Nationwide, what we found is that nearly 10% of kindergartners and first graders are chronically absent. So we see that in our district, that's our highest numbers is our little ones. And usually that's surprising to people because they believe that it's like the older kids that are cutting or ditching. But it's definitely our kinder and first graders who have the most trouble with attendance, and we really can't blame the baby. So we had to figure out how are we going to deal with that. And because kids who are chronically absent, like it says here, when they're younger, are much less likely to read by third grade. And we know that in third grade, in fourth grade, you have to be able to read to learn. You're starting to read that content to be able to understand it. And so it's very important for our students to be able to read by fourth grade. Our state SARB board analyzed 33 districts in the state, and they noticed also that during the pandemic, there's definitely been a rise in our chronic absenteeism. It was a problem prior, but it's a continued problem now, and it's actually a bigger issue than usual. And so some of the recommendations that came out of that analysis was to initiate conversations with subgroups for learning. So subgroups for us are our groups like our foster youth, our students that are in transition, our homeless families, our African-American subgroups. Those are some of our largest subgroups that we've tried to take some time learning from them. And then after learning, review the current interventions. So that way you can look at what did we learn? What can we change so that we can move forward in a better way? Another recommendation that came from that was using text and email as an additional approach to connect with families. So that is something that we are doing in our district. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later. And then also dropping off letters in person as opposed to mail. I think that was found in there. A lot of people don't necessarily check their mail very regularly unless they're expecting a check or something in some package. So it's just, those were just recommendations that came from that analysis that I wanted to share with you. So I'm going to start now talking about the tools in the process before we actually get into the intervention, so that you can kind of see what I'm looking at from my seat when I'm directing my staff and how we're able to hone in on which students are in need of intervention. So I have a map of supports I'm going to show you, and it's going to show you the service sites for my child welfare and attendance specialists. We have 15 of those in my department. We also have a position we call Tier 2 specialists, and there's 30 of them in our district. And we have clinical school social workers, over 40. They're stationed in our middle and high schools, but also serve our elementaries. And then we have one SARB technician, and she oversees all of our SARB hearings. We also have a couple tools. One is Power BI that has attendance indicators. And then we have Atlas reports. And Atlas is our student information system. It's something that we created in a partnership with Microsoft. So it's kind of like your Aries or your Power School. Ours is called Atlas. So I just want you to have that learning as I go through and show you these things. So this is our map of supports. And this is something that we provide to all schools, all administrators. And these are the staff that are specifically assigned to school sites that are going to be the ones providing interventions for them for attendance. And so we want them to be able to know who the person is. And so they can quickly contact them if they have a need regionally for them to reach out. So this is what that map looks like that we provide to them, just so that they know who do I use? Who's my support person? Because most of our staff are, they're housed in like a district department, not necessarily on the school site every day. So they would reach out and we would provide, give service to that site based off of the need that they have shared with us. And this is a screenshot of our Atlas letter summary report. So what we've done is we've created a place where I can see which students at the school site have received our first letter of truancy, our second letter of truancy, and our third letter of truancy. So this is a report that gives me that, so I know which status that those students are in. It also shows me their daily attendance rate, their period absences if they're in secondary, the language that they need us to communicate in, and then the phone number to call. It puts everything in one report, so that way we can quickly address those students who are in those tiers and then don't have to go into another portal to be able to know what language to use or how to contact them. So this is something that we created to, again, streamline our services through our student information system. Now, Power BI is a Microsoft program also, and this is some indicators that we use. It's an attendance app within Power BI. So what you're looking at here is a school, and it tells you the date. I pulled this last year. And then what I can do with this is I can go in and quickly choose the students I'm looking for. So this is a specific site. I can choose if I'm looking for students who are like, say I want to see who are the 7th graders at this middle school who are chronically absent or severely chronically absent. And so that's what I would see. I would see that here it's telling me I have 69 students at this school site who are in chronic absence, which is purple, or severe chronic, which is red. And then this would also tell me that 20 of them are English language learners. This one shows me that 3 of them are homeless youth. Then this one shows me that 16 of them are students with disabilities. So if you have access to Microsoft, this is what we've used to build in these indicators to, again, really quickly help us to find the students that need interventions quickly as we go through and talk about the interventions that we provide. Here is a list of those students also that you can click on and you can export into Excel to be able to have that list again at your fingertips for the staff who are going to be providing the intervention. So let's start with tier 1. And we like to call this the place where we're building relationships. Again, talking about how we can only move at that speed of trust. And so it's very important that we build relationships with our families and our students. So we start by identifying our previous year's chronic absent students, doing that in August, right when we come back, and visit the why. We're looking to figure out why were these students chronically absent last year? Has anything changed? And then we're identifying these students as a caseload for staff to focus on right in the beginning, as soon as we're coming back to school or even before. We reach out to our students that are in middle and high school saying, hey, your schedule's ready. Do you want to come pick that up? And then if we don't hear back from them, that might be an indicator that there's something going on, because usually kids want for schedule. And so we, again, are proactively reaching out to the families to figure out if their intent is to be with us in this school year. And if it is, making sure that they're set and ready to go and there aren't any needs that they have. We also do parent orientations, welcome communication, and back to school night. I suggest with my school sites to set a goal to put the attendance goals into their parent communication when they're doing their back to school nights, making sure that the families understand what their attendance goals are for the year and how they can meet those. And then promoting positive initial conversations with families. What that means is that when school starts, we talk to teachers about reaching out to parents and having some sort of initial conversation about a student that's positive. Because you don't want that first phone call that you make to a family to be like, you know what, your student is not attending or your student has bad behavior. Again, that relationship is so important. So we ask that our teachers and our reach out to our families with some sort of positive conversation initially, tell them, hey, your student's been really engaged, or I'm just really happy to have your student in the class. Is there anything that you want to share with us about your student? And just to be able to, again, build that relationship so that way when you're having those hard conversations that may be hard around attendance, that wasn't the first time that you're reaching out to that family, so they don't feel like, oh goodness, they only contact me with negative information. We also have developed in our tier 1 a kindergarten attendance parent orientation, and that was in a partnership with Fresno Cradle to Career. So what we did is we looked at, again, how we talked about our kindergartners are the students who miss the most, and we couldn't really blame the little guys. So we were like, how could we get in front of that? How could we meet with parents and talk to them about the importance of school attendance and give them the why, and then also help them to set some structures and some procedures in place so that they could be more successful with their students. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about this in detail in a later slide. But this is something that we're offering at 11 of our school sites right now. We're kind of growing this program. We say in tier 1 that you should also think about class and grade level competitions and conversations. So we have different things that we use in the classroom, like spell attendance. So each classroom is just competing with themselves. Every time the students are all there for the day, they get to fill in a letter. And so once they spell attendance, then they can earn whatever the reward was that they were working for. And, sometimes we all think like, oh, pizza parties and, these grand things for rewards. But we have learned, ask the students, what will the students work for? Sometimes they're pizzaed out, like it's not really that important to them. But you'd be surprised how many kids will work really hard to be able to wear a sports jersey on Friday because they really want to wear that and it's out of dress code. So we found that kids will work for crazy hair day, crazy sock day, sports jersey day, a pajama day, things like that, that don't cost us any money at all. So asking the kids, finding out what they want to work for, and then using these different grade level or classroom level competitions to continue that attendance conversation with our students on a regular basis, and then provide them incentive for when they show up. Principal War, we also had a couple schools that were neighboring, and they kind of did a competition. So it was like in this month or this quarter, whichever school has the highest attendance rate, then the principal had to go to the other school and like pass out popsicles at lunchtime. So you can get creative with that. Our bus race by grades, that was where we had like a chart in our cafeteria with buses, and you have like a first grade bus, a second grade bus, a third grade bus, and the buses are racing to have the highest attendance rate. So then there was some sort of, again, incentive or reward for the grade level that the bus won the race. So there's lots of different things that you can do, but we definitely see that we'll find kids showing up for a little bit of friendly competition. We also do the Attendance Awareness Month, September, that's where you want to start. I don't know if you've heard through Attendance Works, which I'm going to make a plug for them. They're an amazing website and nonprofit group that has a lot of different resources that you can use, and a lot of things we use are from Attendance Works. So if you haven't heard of them, check that out. And they do support the September Attendance Awareness campaign. We've done poster contests. This year we did a calendar contest where kids entered their artwork, and we chose 12 winners this time, being that it's a calendar, and each one of those winners, their artwork will be featured on a page in a calendar that's going to be provided to all the school sites and up in their offices. We did an attendance rap video competition with our middle and high school kids. And right now they're very into TikTok. So we're starting something with that, but kind of meeting them where they are. And sometimes we've met with our leadership teams with our high schools just to find out what are things that they want to do. Sometimes, the ideas we come up with aren't the best. Again, listening to the kids, asking the kids. They give us great ideas all the time of what they will work for or what they want to do. And then we just take that idea and then they buy in more when it comes from them. We have developed an attendance mascot, and the mascot visits our elementary sites in September to again promote the attendance awareness. And I'll be sharing that with you a little bit later on another slide, what that looks like. Well, making attendance a part of every conversation is important at Tier 1. So any other school-wide things that you have going on, such as like events or rallies or dances, like making sure that we're talking about attendance, or if there's some sort of privilege list to be able to attend these things, making attendance a part of that privilege. Like you need to have this, you can't have this many absences or you can't participate. Making sure that we're making attendance as important as we do with grades and behavior in most events and conversations. So here's a little more around our kindergarten orientations that I was talking about. So we originally started this at 3 pilot schools, and we currently have it at 11, where we provide a 30-minute learning for kindergarten parents in the first 2 weeks of school. It's important that you do this right away so that they don't already start poor habits prior to you giving them this information. We provide handouts to them, and those handouts are, we worked with a group of school psychologists, school social workers, teachers, administrators to figure out if you had like 20, 30 minutes with parents, what are the things you would want to tell them? What do you think that you could give them that would help them? And so we collected all of those ideas, and we took the best of that, and we put together this 8-page handouts that we give to the parents at these orientations. Talks about bedtimes, the importance of sleep, talks about a help bank. Who are people who can help you in the case that you walk to school each day and maybe it's raining today? And so who could you already have in mind in queue to help you to pick your student up and give them a ride? So that way they're not waiting till the last minute and then it's raining and we just don't go today because we didn't forward think that and have a plan. We talk about morning routines and we talk about nighttime routines. We make sure that they understand that, we're setting up our students for success. And so sometimes it's hard to find 2 shoes in the morning. So maybe we should put those 2 shoes by our, in a certain place at night before bedtime. So that way we're like de-stressing the morning time for our students with routines. They know what to expect. And then parents aren't yelling and screaming because they just kind of, again, point back to the routine or remind the student of the routine. So we talk about the importance of that. And another thing we give out is a monitoring tool. What we find is that parents will forget how many absences their student had. So we say here's a calendar of our school year, and it shows you all of the school holidays. These are the days that you should be having routine doctor's appointments or routine dental appointments on the days when we have off of school. But if you can't get them on those days, we ask that you do those appointments in the later in the day so that they're not missing their core curriculum in the morning. And then we say, if your student has to miss, circle that date on your calendar so that you know how many days your student has missed. Because oftentimes when we approach them and say, your student has 12 absences, they're thinking, oh my goodness, that can't be right. And that's because they're not monitoring that and tracking that data themselves. And it's really easy to forget how many days your student has missed. We do these orientations in the small group in the classroom with teachers. We've also done them in large group in multi-purpose rooms like back to school nights in the cafeteria. I have trained teachers to do these presentations so that way they can just make it a part of their regular presentation when they're doing back to school nights. So there's lots of different ways that you can fit this into the school using whatever means they have for communicating with parents or creating something new. We also partnered with Reading Heart that's here in Fresno to give books to everyone. We sent a flyer out for some of the schools that did this orientation for kindergartners prior to the first day of school, trying to get more parents to come. Some schools put that it's mandatory. There was no punishment if they didn't come, but putting mandatory sometimes makes them think that they need to be there. So that was a tool that worked. We also have them sign in because what we're going to do and what we have done is we track the data. So we've been looking at the parents who attend our kindergarten orientation as opposed to the parents who didn't attend the orientation. And what we find is that parents who attend are 40% less likely to have a chronically absent student. And I'm going to click to this slide and show you that data. So what we do is track over time. These are the months. The students whose parents came to the orientation are the blue line, and that's their chronic absence levels and how they went through the year. The orange line are the students whose parents did not attend our orientation. And so that's 2 schools data that we have there for you to see that in one of our schools, Hidalgo, there were 0 students chronically absent whose parents had attended the orientation. So we have found that there's much value in this. We've been tracking it for 5 years. We're seeing the same 40% trend every single year. So I will share the handouts and I will share the script for this orientation. It's not in my slides, but my email is, and if you were to email and ask me for that, I will do it. So moving on to tier 2, it's where we talk about, this is where we're maintaining relationships, right? We would build them in the beginning and we need to maintain them. We need to really work with those who are bubbling up, right? Those who are starting to have some issue. So identifying those students using those maps and tools that I showed you, the different reports, to be able to quickly identify students who need an intervention. So we do student and parent intervention meetings, and those are group meetings where we invite, maybe the students who have 6 truancies to come to a group meeting where we kind of give a parent presentation around attendance and again, tools for improving attendance or just an opportunity for them to meet with us to maybe problem solve or tell us about something they might need, some sort of resource. And we tell them, no ask is too small or too large. We've provided vouchers for thrift stores. And so maybe they don't have enough jeans and they just, only wash on the weekend. So, whatever the little thing is that's causing the student not to come, we can find that out once we meet with parents individually or within a group to be able to break down those barriers for them. Desk and binder charts for student self-monitoring. So just like we told you, parents need to keep track of how mmany absences that their students have. When the students have a self-monitoring chart, sometimes them keeping track of their attendance, knowing that there's an end goal in mind, like we talked about, at this school, if you're under 9, you'll be in line. And so at the end of the year, we have some sort of event and the students know that they have to keep their absences under 9 to be able to be in line for that bounce house or be in line for that event, whatever it is. But we have those conversations through the year and they're self-monitoring their absences on their own charts so that they know if they're in or they're out or how close they are to being able to continue to be in the running for those events. And again, district calendars, we use those also for meetings with parents that might have students who are struggling. Those are the same ones we provided to the kindergartners, but we find that for all parents, it's a good reminder. So we do give those out also to them. Again, having all of the school holidays on there or breaks so that they can know when they should be doing their doctor appointment. We do home visits in tier 2. We do SART and ARC. So SART, if you're not familiar, student attendance review team, those are team meetings at the school site where you're meeting with parents and kind of having a contract that talks about, agreements. Obviously the student's still struggling with attendance or the family, and what can we do to make an agreement to be able to keep you from moving into SARB. ARC is an attendance review conferencing. We do this at our middle and high school, and this is where we actually meet with the students, because sometimes we find our middle and high school students are really in charge of themselves and getting themselves to school much more than the parents, because the parents are saying we're sending them and they're not going. So our attendance review conferencing is a group meeting we do with students at the school site to be able to talk to them about consequences of absences. So talking to them about their goals, their dreams, and how are they going to get there. Staying positive with them instead of punitive, but then reminding them that there are consequences for absences. We do small mentoring support groups in our elementaries with our 5th and 6th graders, and that's where we're working on SEL skills, but the way we add the students is based off of attendance issues. Giving them things like meaningful work, which we all know makes them feel more connected and more and makes them feel important or necessary and needed at the school site, so they want to show up to do their job. We also do individual incentives like Check and Connect, where we would meet with the students in a case management format. Our child welfare and attendance specialists would meet with them on Mondays at lunch to be able to check in, connect, find out if they've been there all week, and then they can receive that incentive that, that they've been working towards. And then our quarterly mascot visits, like we were saying, I was saying too, sites with improved attendance metrics. So we look at our sites that have like the most improvement in their attendance rate, and we're also looking at the lowest chronic absence rate. And so we bring successful Simon, who is our attendance mascot, to the school sites to hang out with the kids. And let me show you what he looks like. So Simon is our owl. There he is in front of the school, giving high fives and fist bumps to our students as they go in the morning. So Simon shows up at dismissal and arrival, and Simon tells the students he's here to check who's here today and who was on time. And so his whole persona is around students being at school. And the importance of that is that you want to be successful like Simon, and Simon graduated because he came to school all the time. So it's just a fun thing that we do that's become, kind of catchy in our district, where students are excited to see Simon and they want Simon to come back. And Simon brings a Golden Owl Award to the school that has, in our region, that has the most improved attendance, and they all want to continue to win Simon's visit. And he comes out and does dances and again, high fives and just has a good time with students. Again, keeping attendance in the forefront of our conversations and relevant. So tier 3, this is where we have to restore relationships, because we know that sometimes there's a breakdown, and it could be for lots and lots of reasons. But in tier 3 is when we identify students who may need some more intensive attendance interventions. Things like referrals to community-based organizations. Maybe they need some mental health services. And so we would refer to our wellness center that we have in our district, or our school social workers, depending on what school they are. We have resources that connect back to each school to be able to make sure that we meet their mental health needs, or their needs in regards to like PG&E support, or maybe it's again, like we said, a clothing need, or maybe it's some sort of domestic violence situation or substance abuse. So nothing is too big or too big of an ask. We tell them just let us know what you need, and we try to connect the families back to a service that will be able to provide those resources to break down those barriers for them. And we do use SARB. So we refer students to our SARB hearings at 9+ unexcused absences. So that's kind of the threshold that we're looking at in tier 3. This year, again, it's tough because we know we're putting families into quarantine, but just making sure that we're following those independent study practices this year to be able to have students be able to connect back to their learning if they've had to be in quarantine. So we're a little more lenient in the SAR process this year. It's really more about connecting with families, supporting families, building relationships, and providing their needs. Sometimes you might need to modify a schedule to kind of baby step kids back. We have seen that students are, some students have been gone for a long time, and they're needing something like a modified schedule to kind of slowly get them back into attendance regularly. So that's something that we do here in that tier 3. Useful positive parenting is the up attendance module for parents. So we did create a couple learning modules. They're about 45 minutes for parents that are struggling with attendance. You know, what we see is that attendance is a symptom of something else. So it's not just because they don't want to come, it's usually because it's not in their priority, or there's something else competing for their attention, or there's some sort of something else going on outside of school that they'd rather be a part of, or avoid it. So there's lots of things. So when we bring parents together into these modules, and we're doing them virtually now, we see that they start to open up. We talk to them about, you know, the importance of attendance and really just the effect that it'll have on their student if they're not able to, you know, be in school and be successful. And so parents start to open up in those meetings around what their real needs are. And then we continue in another module for them around parenting. And just to be able for them to get some tips and to be able to help in those situations with like setting boundaries for their students. And how do I discipline my student, or what kind of ideas do I have? Or sometimes just about, you know what, I'm not the only one that's going through this. Sometimes when parents can be together in a place where they can kind of have a shared experience and realize that, you know, we're all struggling, and that we can all try different things, and then they can share ideas together of things that have worked for them. So bringing parents together in this module has been really helpful for those who don't have skills or are looking for skills to be able to better support their students. And then repairing broken relationships to restore the connection. You know, parents get upset at teachers, parents get upset at administrators, you know, students have issues on campus with other students. And so we have to really look in the tier 3 at what is the relationship that's been broken and how can we restore that? And bringing in, you know, whoever it is that needs to be a part of that is something that we do in tier 3 with our social workers, our restorative practice counselors, just making sure that we're not leaving any stone unturned. We want to make sure that that we're really looking at the whole student to figure out what is the issue. And that does take time, and that's why we try to do as many things as we can in tier 1 and tier 2 so that we have less students in the tier 3 needing that more intensive support. But we definitely provide that as needed. So some more engagement ideas. In our district, we have shifted from perfect attendance to awesome attendance or excellent attendance. So getting our administrators to move away from that 100% perfection, because, well, obviously in a pandemic, that was very difficult with tech issues and things like that for students to be always there 100% of the time, and it wasn't their fault. And the other thing is that we're human and that none of us are perfect. And so it's important for us to acknowledge that. And if students are really sick, we don't really want them to come to school. So giving them that little bit of leeway, which is about 2 absences a semester, will keep them at 98% or better attendance. And so giving them a little bit of wiggle room, we see more kids are working for that. Because if you're looking for perfect attendance and you miss one day, you're out, right? So you might not try anymore. So this just gives them a little bit of wiggle room to be able to continue to work. We can award more students, we can recognize more students, and that just seems more feasible to the times that we're in. Another thing I didn't put on here is that we are doing also improved attendance awards. Because some of our kids are never going to be awesome or excellent in their attendance, and it may not be their fault either. But once we work with them in our interventions and they try and we can see that they're working harder or they're making improvement, then it's important to acknowledge that. In my role or in my career, I started as a social worker and I did lots and lots of home visits. And I would see those attendance certificates or those, you know, just citizenship certificates on the wall in homes. You know, and for me, you know, when my student, that's an expectation for my children, right? They're going to be in school every day because I go to work and they need to go to school. So, you know, my students would get some sort of certificate and, you know, I'm proud of them, but it is my expectation. And so it wasn't something that like I would have ever thought of putting on my wall. But, you know, for some families, it's different. Like they really, really feel happy to get those awards. And so they put them up on their wall, they put them up on their fridge, and and for some students, like we said, that may not ever be perfect in attendance, or maybe aren't the greatest in behavior. If we can award them for their effort for improvement, that helps them stay connected, feel engaged, and feel cared for. So those would be my suggestions with awards. Give them out, give them a lot. It's good for the relationships. Google Voice, so we talked about those in the beginning. The recommendation from the analysis that they did with the districts was that people will respond better to text message than they will to phone calls. And I can definitely identify with that. I work all day, so when people call, I can't answer the phone always. But if I get a text message, I will quickly respond back to that when I get a second or a break in what I'm doing. And so we moved to Google Voice for communication. One because it gives you a phone number on your, if you don't know what Google Voice is, you can use it on your phone where you're using this phone number to text, and it's not giving them your actual phone number. So it's just kind of like a phone number through this app. And there's other apps, text apps that are out there that people are using, but this one also allows you to call if you needed to, so without using your cell phone. And with us being out in the field a lot and moving around, we're not always at our desks. So this has been something that's been very successful for us. We also are moving into emails and asking parents, would you prefer text message or email to communicate with us? So that way we're being cognizant of how they would prefer to communicate. And we're getting a lot more responses in text message. Still doing home visits at a distance. We're not going into people's homes, obviously, at this point in time, trying to keep our staff safe. But we are still continuing to do that, because sometimes that's just what's needed. If we don't have a phone number and we can't get them to respond, going out to, again, build that relationship and find out what the needs might be for the students. So we're still doing those things. Building relationships and trust, we've found through frequent social media posts and contests. So all the things I've talked about, like our art contests and our assignment visits and the school awards, we put all of that on Simon's social media. So our successful Simon mascot actually has his own social media. He has a TikTok, he has an Instagram, and he has a Facebook. And we share all the school's posts, we share our district posts, and then we also put out, information around contests. And did you know that if a student misses this much time, this is how much effect it will have? So some data we post, just different things for parents. We have competitions where the 100th parent to like our page, we send out a President Unified t-shirt, or some sort of incentive for them too, contest wise, because we find that the parents during this pandemic, it kind of feels like they've been kind of shut out. And this is a window, an opportunity for them to look in and see what we're doing and be able to feel like they're connected to us, even though, again, we're not necessarily allowing them back on campus and in the classrooms yet. So we're finding that frequent social media posts and contests really is engaging for our families, and they are starting to continuously connecting and engaging with us on those platforms. We also started some parent voices meetings, and that's where just regular virtual meetings for our parents to be able to come in and talk to us. And we present things like, we talk about attendance in there. We've also talked about, different positions at the school site, like what does the school social worker do? How can they help you? What are they here for? What are the services they offer? And we have different topics that the parents might be interested in. They're saying, I want to know a little bit more about what is a 504 and do, how do I qualify for that? Or is that something that I might need? Or, sometimes they have needs or things that they want. We do some topics that talk about cyberbullying, like the being safe online, social media, whatever parents are interested in, kind of surveying them in a needs assessment, finding out what they want to hear about, because you're going to get more parents there. And then also spending part of the time listening to them, so we can learn from them. Like one of those suggestions that the state SARB said is, talk to your subgroups and find out, like, what is their barrier? What is their issue? What are the reasons why they feel like their students don't want to come to school? Or, what are some of the needs that they have and some of the issues that we could probably work on ourselves? So having those meetings where we can hear their voice is important. And then we also started virtual office hours for staff. So we did this for parents where we have like a login time where they can just log in and the admin is available so that they can ask questions and they can have access to the school site. I also do that in my department as for my school site. So as we're in ever-changing times around pandemic rules and attendance, sometimes my sites really need some information. And so I want to be available to my attendance clerks, my liaisons, my administration. So I have virtual office hours for staff every week so that they can call me and we can connect and figure out what are the best ways for them to support their students, or if there's any questions that they have around processes or policy or procedure to be able to help them with that. So really giving all the opportunities possible for everyone to communicate and connect so that they don't feel, again, locked out. So this slide is just my information, where I'm located in the case you wanted to contact me or connect with me. Banji Carrillo I have on there, she's my SARB technician. She's not here with me today, but she is also a great resource. If you're a district that wanted some information around our policy or procedures around SARB or SART or ART, or any of our parent compact or contracts or things that we use to communicate with parents, you feel free to reach out and we'll share that with you. And this is the time then where I will take questions. I believe that we're going to be using the chat feature for that in the bottom right corner. So I think I will need Barbara's support for that. Or I can't see the chat, but wondering if there's any questions there.
And here's my problem is I've been kicked out of the platform, so I can't see the chat either.
Okay.
I can see the chat. That's why we have backup.
Perfect.
And actually, I didn't see any questions in the chat, but let me just check again and see if anyone has added one just in the last minute or so. No, I do not see any questions in the chat. So that was just fantastic information. You're doing so much in your district. And I just love the Simon, the attendance mascot, asking who's at school today. That is really...
Who's on time? Yeah, we thought that was, we were pretty proud of ourselves and thought that was kind of clever with it all. But
that's why I asked Kristi to come, because the ideas that they were doing had data that showed improvement, like with the kindergarten and TK parents, and were not difficult to implement, but really good ideas. And you're like, well, duh, that's a great idea. And that's what I loved about it too.
Wonderful. So we can maybe either thinking of questions. We'll go ahead and I'll turn it over to you, Deirdre. I think you have an announcement for them.
Yes. Thank you very much, Kristi. I'm Deirdre Kleske with the County of San Diego's Chronic Disease and Health Equity Unit, and I'm here to provide a short overview of a helpful online resource for those working with students in schools, after-school programs, and community-based organizations. So Kristi, if you can allow me to share, I think you need to stop sharing and then I can start sharing.
Let's do that.
So thank you. So the Tools for Schools resource database was created by Live Well Schools with two goals in mind: to provide information and resources to meet the immediate needs of students, staff, and families, and to provide information and data analysis to support long-term planning for healthy schools. Based on stakeholder feedback, this resource database is now online and in a searchable format to make it easy to find a resource on a wide variety of topics. So I'm going to share my screen now. This is the home page of Live Well Schools, and the resource database is part of this website. Live Well Schools is an initiative of Live Well San Diego and works to build and strengthen relationships between schools, districts, County of San Diego staff, and community partners. The focus areas are health equity, wellness policies, social emotional wellness, childhood obesity, and yes, chronic absenteeism. And the strategies to achieve healthy schools include policy, partnerships, programs, and investments in wellness through local control and accountability plans. So there's more information on each of these topics on the website. But the Tools for Schools resources is really the heart of the website. And searching for a resource is easy. Simply type any word in the search box right here, and all resources that include that word in their title, description, or topic section will show up. You can choose up to 100 resources to show at a time. There are more than 330 resources on the database now, and there are search terms in Spanish, as you can see. So based on today's presentation, you may want to search on attendance, for example, and you can see that there are quite a few. There are 14 different entries that have to do with attendance. If you put in chronic absenteeism, there are some of the same, but also some different resources that might have to do with chronic absenteeism. And then there are many key terms that you can search on: family engagement. I think some of the things that Kristi was talking about had to do with building relationships, youth development. There's a lot on here that could be helpful. We're continuing to add new resources. We encourage you to send any you'd like to see included, and you can see up here that you can email Pam Smith with resource ideas for us to add to the website. I will put the link to Tools for Schools in the chat for you to check out yourself. But as an added bonus, here's a sneak preview on a funding opportunity coming soon. With funding from Health and Human Services Agency, the San Diego County Office of Education will offer grants of $50,000 to $250,000 to eligible public schools and districts in San Diego County to implement health education in grades K through 12. The goal is to develop health literate students, and San Diego County Office of Education anticipates opening applications for this funding in December. For more information, you can contact Paige Metz, and I will put that email in the chat as well. So I appreciate you giving me a few minutes of your time, Kristi, to share this resource, and I'll get those chats in now and stop sharing.
Okay.
So do we have any questions?
Nothing showing up.
No, I don't see any questions.
Okay, so at this time, I just want to reiterate that Kristi has said that she will share all of her information that she shared with us today. That will be in the school summit section of the conference hub, which is on the conference's main page on that left-hand side, and kind of the goldenrod tabs on the left-hand side. So you can access that there. And we genuinely appreciate you spending your afternoon with us today. And I hope you all enjoyed this. Thank you, Kristi. I know I did. And we hope to see you tomorrow for part 2 of our Live Well School Summit. Thank you so very much. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Some very positive comments, Kristi. Someone said, Bridget Lambert said, very cool, thanks. And Cassandra Fort said, thank you for the resources.
No, thank you. Perfect.
Yeah, they're so good.
Thank you.
They're just, that's what I mean. It's just like, yeah, thought of that. It's just good stuff. So thank you for being, this is a tough time to present, but you did a great job, and I really appreciate you being here.
Thanks so much, and thanks for having me. I appreciate your invite, because I've got some good information from the first session I went to. So
good. Well, hopefully you can tomorrow. Jennifer Gomez Trejo and David Copperroot are presenting at 9:30.
Oh, okay. I'll check that out. Yeah, I didn't realize it was 2 days, so I saw that when I have logged in.
It's tomorrow also. Yeah,
come into there. So I'm guessing no one can hear us still, right? Are we out? Are we out of the?
No,
it's still live.
We're still
yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's live till 5. Live till 5.
Live till 5.
And I will, Kristi, if you send me your PowerPoint, I will get that in the Connections Hub, and anyone looking for it should just go to the School Summit section of the Connections Hub.
Okay, I'll send that right over. Thanks again, everyone.
Thank you. All right.
All
Bye-bye.
right. Thank you. Have a nice
Bye-bye.
evening. Bye-bye.